Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. It is now 6:33. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is the second meeting of the Pikesville Revitalization Committee. Trying to mute him again. We're going to start off on the beginning with a couple of guest speakers. First off, we're going to have Councilman Izzy Patoka say hello, and then after that, we're going to have some of the Reisterstown Improvement Association folks talk to us for about 20 minutes and kind of give a quick overview of really how the Reisterstown Improvement Association came to be, looking at some of their strategies that they started with and implemented, and some lessons learned, and some of what they did to work towards the Main Street Maryland, just to kind of give everybody idea of what all they've been doing for the past 10 or 11 years. But first, I do want to, if you have not participated, if you did not participate in meeting number 1, if you could go ahead and type an X in the chat to everyone box, and we're going to do quick introductions that way for anyone who was not here for meeting number 1. So go ahead and do that now. So what we'll do is, for those of you, this is your first Pikesville Revitalization Action Plan Committee meeting. In the order that you type the X, if you could just give a quick hello and let us know what organization or community association you're from. So we'll go ahead and start here at the top from Heidi Bell. Go ahead. We'll work our way down.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heidi Bell from Heidi Marie Bell Photography. Live and operate my business in Pikesville, and I'm a board member of the Greater Baltimore Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome, Heidi. Next up, William Chase. Oh, let's see. You may need to.
You're muted, Billy.
Unmute yourself.
I'm Bill Chase, member of the 1,000 Friends of Pikesville, also previous member of the Baltimore County Planning Board for 10 years, from 1987 to 1998. And I've always been interested in getting Pikesville where it should be.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next up, Jason.
Hi, I'm Jason Roth. I'm a member of 1,000 Friends of Pikesville and live in Stevenson Post and was a president for 20-some years. So, and I've been involved with the revitalization effort with Neville, and am interested in participating in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ron.
Hi, I'm Ron Atman. I live in Greengate. Lived in Pikesville all my life, and I'm happy to be a part of this auspicious group.
Okay, welcome. Next, Pat.
Oh, good evening, everybody. Pat Keller, president of the Perry Hall Improvement Association, which is pretty far away from Pikesville. I was also part of 1,000 Friends of Pikesville as well.
All right. Welcome, Pat. Next, Jenna.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jenna Mitchell, and I'm the new legislative aide in Councilman Izzy Patoka's office, and I'm happy to be here.
And next is Charlie.
Hi, my name is Charlie Happa. I'm actually with the RIA, Reisterstown Improvement Association, current president. So I'm glad to be here tonight.
Okay. Thanks, Charlie, for being here. Appreciate it. And I think also along with you, we have Mary Molinaro from RIA.
And Crystal too.
Oh, is Crystal in?
She did make it in.
Oh, there's Crystal, and yep, Crystal as well, who is the Main Street manager from Reisterstown. So those are our three guest speakers from RIA. But next up, Councilman Patoka, if you would like to take the floor for a few minutes and say hello.
Sure. Thank you, Bill, and thanks everyone for joining us tonight. It's really good to be here. It's great to be talking about something other than redistricting. And redistricting seems to have sucked all the air out of the room with our county council. And I leave redistricting with mixed emotions because I made a lot of friends over the years in Reisterstown, and I'm happy to see the leadership, the strong leadership of Reisterstown working together with the leadership in Pikesville. I think, you know, that's what really makes community. And there's a lot of things that the successes of Main Street in Reisterstown that are applicable in Pikesville. And so I'm just glad to see everyone here. I want to acknowledge my staff that are here. I think everyone knows Justin Silverman, who is Chief of Staff in the Second District Council Office, and also Jenna Mitchell, who's our newest employee. And Pat, you may recall Pat Keller, planner extraordinaire. When Pat was director of planning, we went to the state of North Carolina to find Amy Mante and brought her up to work in the planning office. So we're doing that again. We went to the state of North Carolina to find Jenna Mitchell, Pat, and brought her up here and hope that she has a career like Amy did in the planning office when you and I were in leadership at that time. I think Billy and Mel and Howard all remember the great work that Pat did as planning director. We appreciate him coming from Perry Hall to join us for the work we're doing here in Pikesville. Couple of things I wanted to just say that in our budget requests, the county executive is kind enough to ask each council member what their top priorities are for the upcoming budget in fiscal 2023, which begins in July 2022. And some of the top priorities that I asked Johnny for, and this is an election year, so it's the time to put the press on. I'll just say that is a standalone rec center in Pikesville, which could be the Pikesville Armory. And I asked the county executive for $2.5 million to match the $2.5 million that the governor put in the governor's budget for the Pikesville Armory. Pedestrian safety along 7 Mile Old Court Smith Avenue corridor. $1 million for the implementation of the Pikesville Revitalization Action Plan was the ask, and then for my friends from Reisterstown, a continuation of funding Reisterstown Main Street. And so there's a bunch of other things, but they're kind of in other parts of the district. So I'll just stick to the core Pikesville commercial area for the request this year. And I think that we've got a great synergy and critical mass that's been established, and look forward to not just having a plan, but when Pat and I worked in the planning office, we always tried to create a plan that has the ability to be implemented. And I think that's what we've got going here. So appreciate everybody's participation tonight, and thank you for giving me a moment to speak.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councilman. And thank you, and always great to have you participate. So let's see here, just
Bill, it looks like Mel may have a question.
okay. Mel, do you have a question for the councilman?
Oh, whoops. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Just a question for the councilman. Uh, just a clarification. Yes, you mentioned great news about the funding that you've requested to be included in the upcoming budget, particularly with regard to Pikesville, certainly, and the 2.5 for the armory and the 1 million for the implementation of the revitalization plan is wonderful news. I just need a clarification, Councilman. You mentioned, of course, the rec center at the armory. Is that 2.5 million that you requested specifically to establish a rec center, or also, as the vision calls for, artist campus as well on the Pikesville Armory property?
Well, I think as you know, Mel, from working and being one of the early leaders that started to eyeball the armory and look for how to redevelop it, I think that you know that the cost of the armory to get it to its full potential is going to be tens of millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to start with incremental improvements to the armory. And so, I mean, the first thing, and what I've said to the county executive, he says, like, well, what specifically do you want to do? And so I've shared with him that whatever goes there and however it goes there, there's going to be a need for some public subsidy. And that public subsidy is easy to identify early on by the site prep that'll be needed for whatever it goes on. Like, how do you get cars in and out? How do you get the utilities in? So irrespective of the timing, and I know the visioning that was in place specified a variety of things that you articulated, but if we don't take this first step with site prep, then we're never going to be able to take a second step. And so that's why I've been urging the county executive to move on this. And even though it's state property, but the governor, I'm not a big Governor Hogan fan, I'll say it, but I am pleased that he did put up $2.5 million for the Pikesville.
He did step up to the plate, Councilman. You're right.
Yes. And secondarily, let me also mention that there's 8 or 9 Democrats that are running for governor right now. And 4 to 5 of them have had very specific conversations with me. And I think that there's a reason they want to have those conversations. And what I have told each one of them, if you want the conversation to move forward, then you're going to have to consider in the range of $5 million in the governor's budget in each of the first 2 years of your administration. And so, they're certainly looking for an endorsement, and they're looking for I'm endorsing jointly with my partner, Councilman Schleifer from the city of Baltimore. And so that endorsement is going to be a real tangible commitment to the Pikesville Armory. And so those are the discussions we've been having. I know that the governor has the ability to put it in their budget, because I sat in the room for 8 years when those deliberations were taking place, and we were making decisions about what dollars went into which jurisdiction and for what across the 24 jurisdictions in the state of Maryland. So I know it can be done at the state level. I know it can be done at the local level, and I know there is the will to do it in the community. And in the similarly to Reisterstown, there was a will to make Main Street viable, and now it is viable, and it's exciting. And so the same can happen in Pikesville.
Wonderful, Councilman. Thanks for that clarification. And certainly the armory usage as is envisioned certainly is that phase-in process that you suggest will go a long way into ensuring that the armory becomes the cornerstone for not only a revitalization of Pikesville as a main street, but also a revitalization of Pikesville as a regional draw from throughout the Eastern Seaboard for what is envisioned for that property. So it's a wonderful gem that has fallen into our lap, so to speak. And I applaud your commitment to make it a reality. And the 2.5 million I am hearing is particularly designated for site prep. And it's not specifically designed to accomplish any particular end. Am I hearing that accurately?
No, that's not correct, Mel. What I'm suggesting is that there is a need, and certainly the engineering will define that need, and I'm not an engineer, but there are costs that are very, very high that could be attended to by some public subsidy. And let me also say, and I don't want to dominate the meeting because I know we've got a lot of good speakers, but let me just also say, the success of music on Main Street in Reisterstown is the perfect model for exterior activation of the Pikesville Armory, because it's identical in its environment. And what I mean by that is the leadership of Main Street was able to ask the school board to allow them to use the courtyard of Franklin Middle School to have live music. Similarly, we can ask and demand from the state of Maryland to allow the residents of Pikesville to have access to the courtyard of the Armory for live music at the Armory, while the state is not doing anything other than being an absentee landlord.
Bill, can I add
Okay.
Izzy a question?
Yes, we just have just another couple minutes. I would want to respect the time of the RIA folks that were here. So let's one more question, and we're going to go ahead and move on to RIA.
I'll make it brief. Izzy, you touched on it. When can we have a function at the Armory? When can we have the right of entry and do a July 4th or some other date function? How soon can that happen?
I think it can happen quickly if we could get the state to respond. And I don't want to be too hard on the state, because my friend Pat was Deputy Secretary of Planning for the state of Maryland, but and so I'm going to try to be kind to the state leadership. But I do think the military department needs to respond, and military department and Department of General Services are the two agencies that would allow access. And I would say that we shoot for the synergy with the Suburban Club 4th of July fireworks and say, hey, we've got a target date. There's already an event that takes place. And rather than, or in addition to putting chairs at Baltimore Hebrew, we'd also like to activate the exterior of the Armory so residents can enjoy the fireworks on Independence Day that the Suburban Club provides to the community.
That's great. Thanks for making this happen.
So thank you, Howard, and thanks for all you do.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. Thanks again,
Bill,
Councilman Patoka.
as a clarification for the group, for the fireworks, Suburban Club typically does the fireworks on the 3rd of July, not the 4th, but we're going to have an issue this year because of COVID. We haven't done them the last 2 years, and we're not at the top of the list for a date right now. That if someone did it last year, they would get the date first. Not that we aren't going to try to do it, but it could be shifted several days.
Nothing wrong with the
Thanks,
second.
Jack.
Nothing wrong with the second.
Right.
Thanks, Jack.
All right. Again, thank you, Councilman Patoka.
Thanks, Bill.
Next, we're going to move on to item number 3 on the agenda, which is our guest speakers from RIA. I guess first, go ahead and let Charlie Hoppa, as the new president of Reisterstown Improvement Association. Charlie, if you want to kick us off, and you and Mary and Crystal can kind of walk us through kind of a little bit of the history and lessons learned and strategies used to become a Main Street.
Thank you. And actually, I'm going to defer to Mary. Mary actually was there from the inception. Crystal and I are fairly new to the organization. I'm a little older than Crystal, but she's been in here recently. But I think Mary can give you the background, some of the adventures, I'll say, and challenges they had while things were being formed, how the idea came up and the approach. So at this time, I know Mary has some other commitments, so maybe let Mary start off from here.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Yes, I just was going to share that our adventure did start in the year 2010. And in that year, we held, Baltimore County Department of Planning came out to hold a visionary workshop in Reisterstown. And we were supposed to move to a charrette, which I think would have brought us with a strategic plan, revitalization plan, but that didn't happen. And so we just formed Reisterstown Improvement Association as they went back to do the census, the master plan 2020. Keep in mind that was all 10 years ago. So I don't mean the Department of Planning walked away with nothing to do. They were quite busy. And so we didn't sit back. We got busy and we did form Reisterstown Improvement Association. And one of the reasons we formed a separate nonprofit back in 2010 is because we asked our chamber and we asked the Reisterstown Owings Mills Glendon Coordinating Council, who were organizations that had been formed back in the 1970s, if they would host the effort towards the revitalization of Main Street, Reisterstown. But each of those organizations had different missions and really worked on different ideas. The chamber being very focused on businesses, and the ROG Coordinating Council focused on zoning and property development that was going on. And it was a very large area. Both of those covered Reisterstown, Owings Mills, and Glendon. And we were focused on a very specific part of Main Street. So we formed this organization that had a very straightforward mission and goal to work on Main Street. And that's what we did. We became a 501c3 organization with the help of Amy Mante, who served as a part-time Main Street manager in 2013 and half of 2014. We were invited to go to the Main Street Maryland annual meetings so that we could find out what are these 5 committees, what are we trying to do, what does it mean to achieve excellence as a nonprofit, all of these ideas. And also Baltimore County helped us in 2014 to be approved as a sustainable community in the state of Maryland. And we were also part of a commercial revitalization district of Baltimore County. And both of those designations were quite important as we continued our work with the state of Maryland. We were not able to apply and be approved in 2014. And part of that situation, Izzy has alluded to the fact that the Baltimore County has committed some funding to Reisterstown. And back in 2014, prior to Johnny O being the county executive, we did not have that kind of financial commitment. And the state of Maryland looked right in their eyes and said, without the financial commitment of your government, no, you can't even apply. So that's important to have those aspects of a commitment of the government. Keep in mind, Dundalk and now Reisterstown, the 2 towns of Baltimore County, are the only 2 towns out of 33 that are in this program that are not incorporated towns. So that's kind of important that we have no ability to raise taxes. We have no ability to do the financial functioning a government does for you. So like Pikesville, Reisterstown, Dundalk are towns of the county, and the county is your government. So it's really important, in my opinion, that you develop good relationships, and I think Reisterstown has those good relationships with your county council, with the county executive, with the planning department, the zoning, whoever it is that you need to reach out and gain support to complete your projects and complete what you want to do. You are partners with them, in other words. It's teamwork that's going to get the whole project as you move forward accomplished. So we did all of those things. We formed as a Main Street Maryland town would form with the 5 committees. We had a volunteer Main Street manager for a few years after Amy Mante no longer served as our Main Street manager. And then in 2018, in fact, we funded a Main Street manager. We raised our own money, our own way to be able to pay for a Main Street manager, which is another requirement that you have a fully full-time paid Main Street manager in the program. So we went there and got that accomplished, and then worked in partnership again with Baltimore County to be able to complete the application with the state, and Reisterstown became the 33rd Main Street Maryland, the town in the Main Street Maryland program in the fall of 2020. And then come summer of 2021, we hired Crystal McCready, who is on this call and will be able to tell you all that we are currently doing. Charlie, as he said, has been a part of as a board member for the last couple of years, and he'll be able to speak to, so what? So in 2020, you became a Main Street Maryland town. So what is that now doing for you? And I am going to stop talking because Bill knew I have a 7 o'clock meeting to hop into. I will try to hop back over here as soon as that meeting is completed. But I am leaving you in great hands with Crystal speaking to you as our Main Street manager about what it means and her relationship with the county, how she's working through everything, and Charlie as the president. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'll be back.
Thank you, Mary.
Sure.
Appreciate your time.
Yep.
Okay, Crystal, you're up.
Hey,
Tell us
I'm up.
all the fun and exciting things going on in Reisterstown.
So since I came on board last summer, I guess I'm coming up on 10 months now. We walked into a lot of open grants that we needed to close out, COVID relief, facade improvements. We had a pocket park that we put in. People were writing me every day, what happened to music on Main Street? Well, we're bringing it back. We had to get funding for that. It's been a whirlwind. And at some points I have not been able to decide if this is part of the job or just the transition into the job, or is this how it is to be a Main Street manager? Every day is different. We have so many projects happening right now for the summer. Like I said, Music on Main Street is coming back, and we have extravaganza coming up this weekend. We have put together relationships with up and down Main Street with the new businesses that are coming in, working with the county and the state to try to find venues for people who want to start businesses, landlords that would want to work with them, grants that we could try to get people to fill our vacant buildings with business. And just since I've been here, I would like to say we've been averaging about 1 or 2 businesses every month or so opening up on our Main Street. So we are booming with vitality. I just did my reports, and Bill, I sent you some today, so you can see it. Just since January, we've had at least 3 businesses open up. So I think we're gaining traction. We're working on a mural right now, and we are working on, help me out, Charlie. What else am I losing?
Well, the other things we have coming up are the Blooming Arts Fest with the Rec Council. We coordinate every year. And then we have some of the activities during the holidays throughout the year to bring people up on the Main Street during Easter, Hanukkah, Christmas, Small Business
Halloween.
Week. Mm-hmm. Halloween too, correct. And then the farmer's market.
Correct. Thank you. That's like, if I don't have it all in front of me, it's a lot. Does anybody have any questions? I don't know where you are exactly in the process with Main Street Manager in Pikesville. So,
well, that's really something that's a possibility,
Sure.
much further down the road. Right now, with the action plan just being adopted, it's providing a good guide to accomplishing all of the revitalization goals that the Pikesville community had provided throughout the entire study and action plan writing process. So, things are starting to gain traction. You're starting to get some funding available. We're going to talk here shortly about some of the capital improvement program projects that are underway and some that we're going to look at spending down remaining funds. So things are happening, but similar to when RIA started over a decade ago, it's just getting through those growing pains and figuring out the types of roles that the folks on this meeting will be involved in. So
one of the things that helps us is that we started having our brainstorm sessions again, and the brainstorming sessions are helping us kind of idealize what we want to, what do we want, what are we expecting to happen now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now, and how can we work backwards from there to achieve our goals. And also, what do we want? So when we start putting, which our project for this year is putting our design guidelines in place for our little Reisterstown, you know, we'll have a list of things that we want to start working on. Because, I mean, everybody has all these grand ideas, but sometimes you need to sit and organize and figure out how are we able to do it. And it's not that we can, it's just in what order and what steps do we have to take to get there. And so that's been a big help for us. And I think we're having our second brainstorming session this week, which is, Charlie can tell you about that process. It's been a big help for us as a group.
And it is a good process. It's like anything else. Where are you now? Where you want to get? What's your plan? And it's Michelle gave me a hint. Talking with her one day was the idea is, what are you going to plan to bring people to your Main Street? Bring businesses. What are you going to do to attract people there? And that's part of it. And another hint that Mary gave was, if you're looking to become a Main Street, start looking at the model now, so you're used to it. So as you walk into it, it's not it's not a reorganization. It's actually the way you actually function as an organization. And is there a nonprofit, or how are you going to work with the county? She explained to me there's a little bit, you know, where we are a Main Street organization, Towson's more like an affiliate. Now, I don't know all the nuances of that, but what is the approach you're going to take down there in Pikesville, and get that going now? So when you're ready and the decision's made and you've been awarded Main Street status, you're ready to go and you're just moving on. You've got the plans in place. You know what funding you need. You know how to go after it. Grants are always out there. There are grants from different organizations, and that including the local governments. Go looking for the arts, for businesses, parks, recs, anything else that will help improve and attract people out to that area that you have.
If you could, since our next item on the agenda is kind of going over where we're at with forming subcommittees.
Perfect.
In the action plan, if you could just kind of give us just a quick synopsis of the subcommittees you all formed and just some of their basic functions.
I can do that. I was just about to say, am I muted? Okay. I was just about to say the other super important part is your committee and your volunteers. I mean, because nothing can happen without them. So we have our design committee, and we have, I'll just give you the 5 committees, and then kind of we all intertwine and kind of work together. But we have design, we have economic vitality, we have the organization committee, we have clean, safe, and green, and then we have what's my 5th committee? Promotions. That's me. Sorry. We've been trying to find a promotions chair. We've come and gone out of a couple of different promotions committee chairs. So I'm filling in the place of promotions right now. So it's kind of blending into my manager job. And then promotions. So each of these committees have subcommittees as well. So each subcommittee kind of takes on a project and then works with other committees to have something come to fruition, such as Music on Main is its own committee, but it's kind of underneath promotions because promotions does events. You have organization committee, which is Mary's committee, and then underneath organization, we have a grants committee that we started. So I, as the Main Street manager, will work with the grants committee, and then we'll have a meeting with organization, and then maybe under organization, there's the finance committee, and we'll meet with finance. So you'll kind of figure out the 5 that you need, and then from there, where you are needing to put focus is where you'll form your own subcommittees that are special to you or that work for your model. So like our clean, safe, and green committee, we have monthly cleanups. And then in that same committee of the monthly cleanups that come out and clean up Main Street, we have Franklin Woodland Trails, and that's a whole other project. And we have somebody running that committee, and they have their own cleanups. So like I said, it all kind of works together. You'll have somebody from promotions planning and events, and then maybe they have to go to organization for figuring out how we're going to fund it and working with the grants department. And then once we get it, you know, it can go to design, where now we need to come up with the image and the posters and how to promote it. So it's all, you all work together, but you find people who are good in that particular area and you utilize them. Don't burn them out, but utilize them.
And that's a good point. I think any volunteer organization, I was with Boy Scouts active for a while, getting people in. There's a lot of competition for people's time right now, especially if they have families and everything else. So how do you get that talent pool in there and refreshed? So it's the old, you know, if you take on the position, there's that 3-year plan of, okay, first year you're getting kind of introduced. Second year, you're looking for who's going to replace you. The third year, you're kind of saying, okay, how do you engage those people to become part of the process? Same thing. You have an organization and it lives. And it lives through the people who are involved out there, giving their time and their talents and their treasures too, if you think about that, to make things successful.
Absolutely.
And the other resources, Izzy, Michelle, Johnny Zo's office, planning department, Bill, and them. That's really important to engage that local government, because you are part of that government, and because we are in Baltimore County, there are no, I almost say no, but the incorporated towns, those charters were turned over many years ago. So we act differently than a lot of like Carroll County or whatever. So know what it takes to get your organization up and running, who you have to engage with, include them in. We're getting better communications, which is really important. And also get your story out there. You know, some of the local press, we have some of the local newspapers, you know, is out there, and they put out that they advertise for us in the sense that they let people know what we're doing and what we're doing for the community.
We also put together, on a grant, we put together our new webpage, and part of that is an interactive community calendar that we're working on, where we can work with all the local businesses and let them post community calendar to our calendar, so everybody feels more networked, instead of, you know, you type in Reisterstown and then you'll be able to see on one calendar what is happening on all different facets of our town, which is a really neat way now to kind of make people feel less isolated and bring them all together. So that's a big project that we're currently doing. And it also comes out with a mailer on Mondays, which it seems so really a mailer, but that mailer gets out to 1,800 people every Monday, and we put new material in it every week. And that's how we have been able to find committee members, volunteers, people that show up to events. We ribbon cuttings, we engage the community in every single way that we can. We hold workshops, we hold meetings where we open it up to everybody and let everyone voice an opinion, and we're very responsive. So I think that that's a really good thing. You write an email and you get a response within the hour, and I think that that's important in 2022, and it makes people feel heard. And so think about that too, like how can you engage everybody to make them feel like they have a part in it, because they do.
And we do coordinate with other groups in the community too. So we're not in competition, we're actually coordinating with them so that we're making Reisterstown itself a good community for everybody.
Ms. Macriati?
Yes.
Thank you. Mel Mintz here.
You are.
Sure. Okay. You are the managing Main Street manager, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And I'm curious as to how the structure works in Reisterstown. For example, some subcommittee of the subcommittee wants to put on a music festival.
Sure.
How do they run that, for lack of a better word, Crystal, up the flagpole, so to speak, and get it moving?
Well, Charlie, do you want to mention how Music on Main Street started? Because it did start with our Main Street, with our manager.
With kind of the structure, how the decision gets made.
Well, through the committees and then through the board or whatever, there'll be a presentation, an idea floats up, and then there'll be a search committee like anything else to say, okay, let's go out and see if this is a doable thing and what it will take to do it, and Can we get it done? How long will it take? And then from there, once we make the commitment to go on, it's like, okay, what's the schedule? So Music on Main Street, it started before I was involved, but I could hear it from where I live since it did begin, and it draws a good number of people, and people enjoy it. So it's a good thing to go out there and get it. Now, the idea is, originally we did some of the scheduling of the bands. This year we engaged a talent group to go out there and get that schedule together. So the idea is, starts down at the basic idea. Someone brings it up, kicks it around, does a presentation to the board. Hey, do you think this is doable?
You can come to the general meetings. We hold a general meeting open to the public every month, and we open it up to anyone that wants to bring in ideas or questions or guest speakers. Currently it's on Zoom. We resume back in person next month. So you're welcome to come to one of those meetings if you'd like to see how it works.
How does your organization, how does the decision get from idea to, okay, let's do it?
Well, it has to go through the board. So it starts in the general meeting. We talk. Then we hold I guess we haven't really shot down too many ideas. So I'm trying to think, like, it goes straight to the board member has the ultimate say. So they do pass the board. And it really comes down to if we can fund it and if we can make it work, if we can find a location for it. So the 5 committees, the head committee chairs and the board, they're the ones that are going to have the final say in anything. So you can't just run you can bring any idea to the table. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. But I think we've made pretty much every idea so far come to.
So the final decision of moving forward with any particular idea is made at the board of the Reisterstown Improvement Association. Did I hear that?
Correct.
Yes.
You take votes.
And the Reisterstown Improvement Association is made up of property owners, et cetera, and business members in that community. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
We've actually worked I'm back, I'm sorry. We actually worked very hard since 2010 when it was formed, that the board members were equally dispersed between what we called our stakeholders. And our stakeholders in Reisterstown Improvement Association are the property owners along Main Street, the Main Street businesses, and then there's the community at large, of which I'm a member, so I consider myself a cheerleader. Yay for the concerts! Yay for the farmers market! I mean, I try to get all the community and the surrounding people excited about that which we do as an organization. But as you all were saying, all of these ideas come to the board, which is represented by all 3 groups of our stakeholders. And that's not always easy to get an equal amount of each of those 3 groups, but we try very hard that everybody has a voice from those 3 groups, and they can speak to what they want, and they're all involved. It's a big marketing effort, if you will. You kind of have to sell it to the community of why is this important for our town. And I feel like since 2010, a big part of what we've done has been to try to market and let people know. And the concerts you were mentioning back in 2010, when we started these concerts, we started with 3. Initially, the idea was that's never going to fly. So don't get upset if your first thought on doing something comes back with a negative. But then we decided to do them, and we had 3. And then pre-COVID, they grew that we were having 15 concerts across the summertime, and we would average around 1,200 to 1,500 people coming to these concerts. The town just loved the opportunity to gather. And so they were very popular. Unfortunately for COVID, we had 2 years of nothing, and we're coming back with 10. So I know the town just can't wait. They're kind of frothing at the mouth for this opportunity to come back together again. But it's a way we feel we can get people on Main Street. And so, I don't know, like the chicken before the egg. Do you fix Main Street and then you bring people? Do you bring people to experience Main Street and that lets you improve Main Street? I feel like we're always trying to work both ends of this at the same time. Okay, sorry guys, I just jumped in. I'm done.
Perfect.
If I could jump in for just a moment, I in the chat box, I put links to Music on Main Street
Thank you.
and also the Bloomin' Arts Fest. And I don't understate the value of the Music on Main Street. I think that the success of it brings people from Carroll County into Reisterstown. I know that because when I was campaigning through the crowd, there's a lot of folks from Carroll County that were bringing Carroll County dollars into Reisterstown. And don't be afraid to try anything either. For example, there was an attempt to try Music on Main Street indoors for a couple of sessions. And the reason I say don't understate the success is because Glenn Barnes, who was one of the leaders of Music on Main Street, unfortunately passed away. But then Dan Carey's there to step in amongst the other many volunteers, the many volunteers in Reisterstown that step up to the plate on these events. And I think that's the key to the success.
Also, it's helpful if you don't expect the same people to always do everything.
I said that too. Yeah.
Did you already? I'm sorry.
Very similar.
That we encourage, sometimes someone says, well, I can help doing this. That's wonderful. Whatever the project is, that person is willing to devote their time and talent. That's terrific. And if that's what they do that year, and that each year keep that project moving forward, that's terrific. But not everybody can't do it all. It's just impossible. And justifying, even if you can bring somebody in on one of the committees where that's where they feel they have a talent, then that's great. And let them serve their talent there, or help out during an event, during the concerts. They're just thrilled with the concerts. Then that's terrific. And maybe they don't help on the cleaning up the street, and they don't help on banners, or they don't help on whatever your other project is, but they do a terrific job on this certain project. Then you want to celebrate what they can bring to your group.
And then you find out who their friends are and what they can do. As that interest increases, broadens out, and you find somebody else who says, oh, I can't do that, what they're doing, but I know how to do that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for RIA before we move on with the agenda and get ready to wrap up here by 8 o'clock?
Sorry, Bill, just last question. Bill?
Go ahead.
Yeah, just a real quick question. Who funds Crystal's salary, and how's that done?
A large part of that funding occurs because of the commitment of Baltimore County.
Gotcha.
Finding organizational grants is difficult.
Right.
And so the county funding has been happy to allow us to use it for the organizational expenses that we need.
Got it. Yeah, no, I figured it was. Thank you very much.
Mel,
I have a quick, oh, I'm sorry.
This is Beth Reingold. Bill, I thought it might be helpful real quickly to make a distinction between Main Street organizations and chambers, since the Greater Baltimore Chamber will be heavily involved in the revitalization of Pikesville. And this goes to Mel's really important question, where does Main Street funding come from? And just for the distinction for everyone on this call, a Chamber of Commerce, which often does very similar work to Main Street organizations, a chamber is a 501c6. That means that chambers are nonprofits, but we're not tax exempt, and we cannot fundraise and give tax exempt status to donors. So that's a really interesting distinction. Anyone who's a sponsor for one of our events does not get the tax exempt status. So that can make it challenging for chambers. Main Street organizations are 501c3, so they are tax exempt, and donors and sponsors can receive a tax exempt status for their financial contributions. Chambers and Main Street organizations across the country often work hand in hand. And I think Crystal and Charlie have sort of touched on that a little bit with the chamber, the Northwest Chamber, I presume, and RIA. And I would love, Crystal and Charlie, for you both to come and talk to the Greater Baltimore Chamber Board, because we have long admired the work that you are doing in Reisterstown. And as the chamber works with Bill and Baltimore County, the plan is for us to apply for Main Street affiliate status as Towson has done. So that's, that's coming. And I said, in conjunction with working with the county and our chamber and our board.
What does that mean, that affiliate status? That's interesting.
Yeah, and that's sort of the county's plan for us. Now, Charlie and Crystal, my understanding was that if you are a Main Street organization, you receive state funding, and is it possible you also receive federal funding if you have that status?
I'm not sure. I'll defer to Mary. Good. Or maybe.
One of the things, you're correct, and very nicely answered the question, Beth, about the difference between the chamber, and one of the reasons that the Northwest Chamber was not the lead organization, because they can't be a 501c3, and also being a 501c3, there's some ability for getting funding as well. But the question that you asked, I just lost it when I went on another topic. Or did you just ask the last question?
State and federal funding?
Oh, yes. So we are able to apply for, although we could, because we were in a commercial revitalization district prior to becoming a Main Street Maryland, in the Main Street Maryland program, we did receive community legacy funding. But some of the grants we received in these past 2 years were only targeted to Main Street towns. So some of that we were able to give grants to our businesses to help them coming out of COVID, things of that nature. So there is some funding, state funding, and if it were federal that we were getting, I would have a feeling it's federal to state to us. So I think the monies that we used with our state grants started at the federal level down to the state of Maryland and then came out to us. And you're correct, there's some funding that it was only available because we were a Main Street Maryland town. But you all can do that research online about affiliate status versus being a full Main Street Maryland in the program to see the distinction. And you might want to ask Towson's Chamber to explain to you the benefits that they felt that the affiliate status. I don't think you had to have the 5 committees. I don't think you had to. Bill, do you remember all of this when they applied? I don't think they had to set up with the 5 committees that we are with the Main Street program, the National Main Street program. We're a member of the National Main Street program and the State Main Street program. But I don't believe that Towson, the affiliate programs, are a part of that.
This is Ruth. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Thanks for this great presentation. So I had 2 quick questions. One was, you mentioned that you have a mailing list of about 1,800, and I wondered how you built your mailing list. And I imagine that one powerful driver is the music on Main Street when people come. I wonder if you collect, email addresses there. But that was one thing I wondered, is building the email list. And the other one was, you mentioned that you're hoping to do a mural, and that's something that we've been kicking around after looking at putting art on traffic boxes. We discovered that there are just so many barriers right now to that, and I would love, as an aside, Michelle and Bill and anyone from, the county, the state, to have a more global offline conversation about how to, you know, completely, you know, turn that whole thing on its head and break through all the barriers that BG&E and SHA put in the way, because that could be everywhere. We could be doing that. But aside from that, where, just briefly, how is your mural project being organized, and where's the funding coming from for it? You're muted.
Crystal, you're muted.
There I go. As far, probably because my kid in the background, as far as the mailer goes, we set out, Mary, how many, 30, how many events a season?
45 different times. We set up an information table under a tent between farmers market, starting Bloomin' Art Fest, farmers market, music on Main Street. We have usually an extravaganza. We have, go ahead.
I'm saying we work with the churches and their events, and they bring us in and we set up our, I mean, anytime someone in the community, the night out, anytime there is any event happening with anybody on our Main Street, we usually come out with it. Now we have new nice branded tents, and we set out a clipboard and we talk, and it's usually Mary and I, we talk to everybody and we collect their name and we add them to our roster. So we've built up quite a little.
Do you have a printed handout? You know, when you go to table all of those different events, you have a little brochure or card or something?
We have it all. We have maps to our trails for Franklin Woodland Trails. I make a lot of the flyers and we print those out and we hand them out to people. We put out all the events that are currently happening, like our farmers market schedule, to events that are happening, even just with other areas around us. Like if the church is holding something, we'll put it on the table. We stop people and we talk to them and we say, did you know that there's a workshop happening? Did you know? Absolutely.
That's right. You
But
have
they
to know
come
how
to
to
us.
work a booth like at a convention. You don't just sit behind it. You got to work the
right. I've done
work the room, work the table.
But we wind up meeting a lot of people, and then those people do show up to the next event and they sign up, and then, you know, now they're in our network. And so then we take it and on the webpage side of it, you know, we have a spreadsheet with everyone. We add it into the webpage, and then they will make sure that they get it. We meet them, we meet them that Monday, they get an email within 7 days. You know, they're on our mailer list. So you got to stay on top. That's a full-time job in itself, but we do that. And then we also have volunteers in our welcome center that we've opened back up, or that we've just recently opened. And we're always looking for more volunteers, but we share a building, and in the same building is a coffee shop, and people will kind of come through the welcome center, and some of our, you know, our volunteers will stop and talk to them and then get them to sign up and put their name on the mailer while in the welcome center. So you just, everywhere you go, collect the cards, collect the names.
Where is the welcome center?
Our welcome center is at 202 Main Street. We share, it's the second oldest building on Main Street, and we share it with a coffee shop at the moment. So there's a lot of foot traffic that goes.
Okay.
Reister's daughter, right?
Correct.
Yep. Reister's daughter. It's on the corner of Cocky's Mill, the middle school, right where most of our events happen, are on the corner. It's a perfect location right in the center of town.
Since I came out on board, one of my first jobs was, hey, we're opening a pocket park and we need to see this come to fruition. And so we all worked together very quickly, and we finished a pocket park right behind our welcome center. So
I know where that is.
Yes.
I went to Franklin Junior High. So
perfect. So between the people just walking through there, we.
Hello?
Oops, I think Crystal maybe froze, and I feel like my power just.
Mural, if you could quickly address the mural.
I'm sorry. We do need to move on. We can try to take that offline. It does look like Crystal is having some internet issues. Because we have a half hour left, and we have 3 items left on the agenda. So I would like to try to move on and get through these next 3 items by 8 o'clock. Yes, can hear you, Mary, but I think Crystal may have.
I'll be quiet. I was just going to real quick say about the mural. The mural, we're working on the final paperwork with Bill, but it's out to the artist to be able to draw it, and the location is finished, and it was funded with a community legacy grant that we were able to obtain. So that's answers your question. Thank you very much. And Bill's got it again.
Great. thank you, Mary and Charlie and Crystal, if you're still online. Very valuable and appreciate your time. All right, so with the next half hour, next item on the agenda is would like to have a kind of a quick status update on where we're at with subcommittee volunteers, and also thinking about the idea of at least combining some committees for now. So as of right now, this list has kind of been growing as far as the action plan committee in itself. I have, as of today, about 29 names on a list. Out of that 29, I have 10 folks that submitted their name for being interested in the subcommittee. For the most part, it's all within the design or streetscape subcommittee, and with just a few volunteering for economic vitality and one for organization.
Yeah, just want to make sure, Bill.
Yes.
That my first choice, and certainly importantly, is that Economic Viability Committee. I hope that's been.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody knows that. All my folks know that. Thank you.
Okay, got it. So for the time being, since a lot of the volunteers that have submitted names so far is relatively low, about a third of what I have on the master committee list. I've been thinking about the idea of potentially combining some of these committees for now until things really start to take some kind of traction. More folks really start to get a little bit more actively involved in a subcommittee or two. So any thoughts on starting to at least combine the 4 subcommittees we've identified so far, being 1, design and streetscape, 2, economic vitality, 3, promotion and marketing, and 4, organization. I could certainly see combining 2 together, perhaps doing a design and streetscape along with promotion and marketing, and then combining economic vitality with the organization subcommittee, and really kind of tackling some of the key.
That sounds like a great idea, Bill. It's good, I think.
Okay.
If you have to do a consolidation, you may not have to, but if you do, that's kind of the perfect organization that I can see. Thank you.
Well, I think to really get started again, until things start to take a little bit more traction, you know, this is meeting number 2. It's still a lot of growing and learning going on. So I do think it probably makes a little bit of sense to start off with combining some groups for now, and then hopes that you know, a little bit down the road, once things take some traction and more people get involved, perhaps we can kind of take things a little bit more separately and a little bit more focused.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that kind of organizational concept? No?
So what I'll do early this week, is go ahead and send out what I have for names and what subcommittee they have volunteered for, and then do a list that's combining 2 and 2 with the 4 subcommittees, and kind of let everybody see where we're at, and then hopefully start to fill in some of the blanks for other folks that have shown interest in being a part of the action plan committee. I do see a couple of names on here on WebEx tonight that I don't have on the list. So send me an email after the meeting, or tomorrow, and let me know that you're interested in being a part of the action plan committee, and if you're interested in being a part of one of the subcommittees as well. That way we can really start to consolidate this list. Second part to this agenda item is the idea of creating a clean, safe, and green subcommittee, which is something that could potentially coordinate with the chamber on. I know Beth is here. If you have any ideas with kind of where things have been with your monthly cleanups now that spring is nearly here, I think. It seemed very spring-like today, but if that's another committee that we're interested in forming, I know that's some committee that Reisterstown does have. And I know that Beth had been organizing a lot of monthly district cleanups last spring and summer. Beth, is there any thoughts on your end as far as bringing those back? Is there anything that perhaps a subcommittee from this group could do to assist with those cleanup days?
Sure. So let me just tell you that we started these community cleanups in the what I'm going to call the business district of Pikesville. We tend not to call it that, but most towns have what they call the business district. We started off with a lot of momentum and participation, and even had Maryland Waterways assist us, which was really amazing. And I know Councilman Patoka and his team are very familiar with those cleanups because they attended every single one, to our deep gratitude. But as our councilman also knows, it really waned in participation, especially during the hot months. And it became something that that people saw and appreciated but didn't participate in. So our chamber board sort of, looked at it again and decided that we would do 2 major cleanups rather than monthly cleanups, just because of the participation, and we felt we might get more participation if we had 2 large cleanups a year. Now, that's just a proposal. If we can get a committee together and commit to volunteers for monthly cleanups, we can certainly assist in that. But the irony is I was driving 45 minutes from my home. I live outside of Baltimore County, a mistake, but that's another story. But anyway, I was driving far to, meet our councilman's team at the end of the cleanup cycle. And it just, it wasn't ideal at all. So in an ideal world, we're going to have 10 to 15 or more volunteers, including businesses and residents. And, our commitment as a chamber is to make sure we've got the business participation. And we want to work with the residents in doing that. So we're open to anything. But as it stands right now, we will commit to 2 larger cleanups a year.
Okay, great. Thanks for that briefing, Beth. So any thoughts on, now that we've, for now, decided to combine the 4 subcommittees that we were starting with, any thoughts as to forming the Clean, Safe, and Green committee that could in some way coordinate with Beth and the chamber for these cleanups?
Unless you want to form a 3rd committee, perhaps it might fit in with streetscape. If you wanted to go down that, again, using your model of trying to keep this skinny for a little bit.
Yes.
But in the future, I'm sure there will be needs for more than 2 subcommittees, so to speak. I'm sure of it. But for now, perhaps to flesh out some stuff, maybe. Again, just the first thought that I had in my mind. So,
okay. All right.
I invite everybody to participate in this because it's going to be your ball game, kids.
Yeah, I think as what Mary and Charlie and Crystal explained, these past 10, 12 years, Reisterstown, it's been a lot of hard work, primarily from volunteer group of people. Up until just this past year is the first time that Reisterstown has had a full-time salaried Main Street manager. Up until that, it's all been volunteer work. So it's really kind of all hands on deck and trying to do what we can. So I think unless anybody has any objections, we'll probably go ahead and roll that idea in with, as Mel said, the design streetscape and perhaps the promotion and marketing role in clean, safe, and green component to that, and start getting some names down on the list and filling in a lot of these subcommittee names that I have blanks for. Does that sound good? As a next step into
Bill, I wonder if you should consider neighbor space involvement in this activity in the greenscape.
how would that function?
Well, they do a lot of volunteer cleanup. We've had it in Greengate. We've had neighbor space come in and do some wonderful work here.
They do work. I'm sorry, I hate to chime in all the time, but Neville, they do work on behalf of your community. Is that correct? Is that what I heard?
Yeah. But not on behalf. They just do it because they think it's a good idea.
Did you request it or something like that? Is that how it works?
These are properties that they have in our community.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I got it. I see. Well, neighbor space doesn't have any communities in Pikesville.
Yeah, we have communities.
I mean, in the corridor.
They have properties in Pikesville.
In the commercial corridor?
Not in the commercial corridor.
Yeah, well, that's what this focus is. Yeah, I got it.
It's true, but I'm sure they would be willing to get involved in some way.
Well, I'll certainly take a little closer look at that and see if there's any kind of good fit in bringing them in. So, thanks, Neville. Okay.
Bill, could I just add to Neville's comment?
Yes.
Perhaps neighbor space. The state police seems to have an abundance of opportunity areas for, for neighbor space projects. Most of it is concrete around the state police, both their troopers. I think it's a trooper organization building.
Trooper
as well
association.
as yes. They seem like good open space opportunities where we can engage neighbor space.
Well, that front courtyard, again, I hate China. That front courtyard has been part of the Thousand Friends of Pikesville's ideas about converting some opportunities there. Have you seen that, Izzy? Councilman, I'm sorry. Have you seen that space?
I have, yes.
It's a wonderful open space, and there's almost no occupants in any of those buildings. And to use that as kind of an entry point from the southern end is spectacular.
And quite frankly, having chain link fencing on the commercial corridor is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Especially at the state police offices. I mean, for goodness sakes, if there's any more area that you don't need chain link fences at the state police offices.
Absolutely. That front courtyard is stunning. Stunning.
I do see a hand up from Pat.
Yeah, I serve on the Neighbor Space Board for Baltimore County, and they are interested in always looking for properties, especially in the Main Street area. And if you wanted the executive director just to come briefly and explain what they do and how they do it, that would be great.
Okay, I certainly think that would be beneficial, and I'll follow up with you on that, Pat.
Bill?
Yes.
Just as a point of information, the state police courtyard was open to the public and used for public concerts before 9/11. And after 9/11, that whole campus really became locked down and not available to the public. That's, it's persisted to this day that the library hasn't been able to ever have discussions with the state police about the parking lot that's adjacent to the library parking lot, which is half empty. We don't have access to the courtyard for public events because it's that holdover from 9/11. So that's another thing, like the traffic boxes, that needs to be addressed. I mean, that's above my pay grade, but I don't know who, but it should be addressed because that's a resource for Pikesville that we don't have access to right now for institutional reasons.
Okay. Thanks, Ruth. Okay. Well, we have about 12 minutes left. Our next item, number 5, this will be real quick. I just wanted to give everybody a quick status update on just a couple of the capital improvement program projects that were discussed in meeting number 1, and many of you are familiar with replacing all of the benches and trash cans in the commercial revitalization district. So that's that whole stretch of Reisterstown Road from the Beltway down to the city line. As of right now, benches are pretty much en route to be delivered. It's my understanding that the existing benches, so all of the older wooden benches that have been falling apart, are should be in process of being removed now, and the next step would be the first week or so of April. All of the new benches should either be installed or should start getting installed that first week or so of April, just depending on what the weather's like. As far as trash cans goes, we did have final bid selection and just waiting on that award to go through the signature process before we can go ahead and order the new trash cans from the vendor. So as soon as that happens, we'll be getting those on order, and with the hopes of having new trash cans installed either late spring or sometime early summer. So things are moving, albeit slowly, but some things are happening. So any questions on that before we move on to the last item for this evening?
Congratulations, Bill. It's Beth Reingold again, and we're just so excited to have those new trash cans, new benches, and I'm all about the flowers. And so I think that is truly something that with the benches and the trash cans is what is going to inspire volunteers and our businesses and get them excited, because it's something tangible that they will see. So I want to know if there's going to be a call for bids for landscaping and flowers.
Well, that actually kind of really leads us into the last item on the agenda with the 10 minutes that we have with discussion on some of these next step capital improvement program projects. We have a couple on the list here on the agenda. Just to name the 4 bullet items, we have lampposts, district banners, parking wayfinding signage, and then lastly, landscaping and dumpster screening. So as I said in the first meeting, there's somewhere in the ballpark of $100,000 to $130,000 remaining of what was awarded for FY22 CIP. Part of that going to the benches and the trash cans. If we want to kind of set priorities out of that list, that would be great. If we can kind of hash that out quickly tonight and start looking at a couple of next step projects to allocate some of that funds towards, that would be great. I'd like to be more of a consensus process with the group.
Could you list that, just say that list of 5 things or whatever again?
Sure. What we've kind of been on the list for next projects for a while now is replacing some of the older lampposts, potentially coming up with some type of district banner design with new banners for lampposts, parking wayfinding signage, which is probably a little bit more of a complicated project because we would have to roll in SHA into that process. And then lastly was landscaping and potentially some type of dumpster screening project or program.
Thank you.
Yes, Bill, you could.
Go ahead, Bill.
Thanks, Bill. It's a nice list, but it's limited funding. So I think we're a little limited on timing, and so perhaps we could begin some discussion here, but maybe it might be the most expedient, lacking a better word, if, you send out a list of these various concept projects, and then the folks on the Oversight Committee can weigh in on which one they prefer and what order. But I think the consideration is, because of the limited funding at this stage, I think we have to consider what's the biggest bang, what's the goal? What's the goal of whatever we do, or wherever this Oversight Committee decides to do, and what's the biggest bang for the buck for 130? You could spread out that 130 to every one of these items, but not have anything productive as a result because you haven't achieved any kind of critical mass. You could theoretically, again, not saying which is preferable, but devote $130,000 to just some unifying design banners on those lampposts, and you might be able to accomplish a critical enough mass to achieve something. So that's what I think from a general standpoint, not specifically what to do, but how to arrive at a decision on what to do. Anybody have any thoughts?
Bill, are there rough, Heidi Bell, are there rough budget numbers on these 4 categories? Do we have any insight on costs involved?
No, not at this point.
Yeah, that's one of the things that may need to be ferreted out before you make a decision. In other words, if you could get X number of banners for 130,000, is that valuable enough, or is replacing X number of lampposts for 130,000 doable and productive, or some of the other items? So that's an important question that Heidi brings up, certainly, in making that decision on how to devote that 130,000.
Okay.
So Bill, if we don't have economics on these 4 categories, do we have just some general scope of each of the projects? So the number of lampposts and locations, the number, ideally, if we were able to create district banners for all of Reisterstown, proper, or Reisterstown business proper, number of areas and spots for free parking, and sort of the scope and scale of landscaping and dumpster screening. And I'm making a huge assumption that dumpster screening is imprinting on dumpsters.
No, we're more talking about, there are some hot spots in the district where some type of dumpster screening would be beneficial to the overall aesthetics of the corridor.
Screening around the dumpsters, a fence, for lack of a better.
Either some type of fencing,
Got it.
some
Like
type of
visual
opaque screening.
barriers, decorative.
Yes.
Okay.
Bill, what about when Heidi asks for, numbers to be attached to all these things? What about the grant that you and I worked on?
Yep.
Where we did price out the landscaping and the banner? I mean, couldn't we sort of use that as a starting point, even if we adjust it?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
Great.
just about to say, was taking a look at that community legacy application. We did have some quotes there. And I can also go and just kind of verify some of that with our highways division as far as some approximate cost per lamppost, because we did get those quotes. I don't have them in front of me, and that was probably about 2 years ago, but it could get us a ballpark figure on some of those. So I'll have to take another look at that.
Bill, I
and get
remember that project was like sort of half of Main Street, not all of Main Street. So I think Beth used the word extrapolate. Is it possible, to take the figures that you guys came up with? I remember it was a couple of blocks. It wasn't the whole thing, which I was lobbying for it, to extend further. Could you sort of extrapolate? And Mel's idea of maybe pull all the, I mean, it's a lot of work for you, but to pull together what we've just talked about and put it into an email that you send out to everybody, and we can weigh in on prioritizing, ranking the projects. If you have any budget information, you can attach to them, and whether we think it's better to have like a shotgun approach or, one target where you get bigger bang for your buck, or depending on what the financials are for each of those projects. If you could put it into an email, because we know we're not going to be able to discuss it tonight.
Yeah, and I can say that, yeah, that's a good point. A lot of what was in that was focused on that central business district area. And that's essentially what the action plan dictates, is that will really be the kind of first off high priority, uh, highest impact area. You know, we could come up with the numbers of, well, this is what it would cost for that central business district area, and this is potentially what it could cost for that area further towards the city line, for things such as lampposts, landscaping, and you know, banners and things of that nature.
That'd be great. Yeah.
So, you know, I can't tell you how precise they'll be, but at least that'll maybe give everyone a little bit of a ballpark idea what it could potentially cost. That'll help.
That's all we're looking for to help with the process of winnowing us our interest down.
Sure.
Bill, there's also, you've got a lot of items in your plan about improving the aesthetics of this area, especially the business area between Old Court and say Slade Avenue along Ricestown Road. So you've got a lot of projects, and some of them are going to take some planning and maybe some planning dollars. So I'm wondering if some of that funding can be used for planning efforts as well as actual ideas that are immediately implementable. I think we obviously need to have stuff that we can actually show people that something is happening. I think that is key. But there's also the planning effort that needs to be done. And I'd like to know your ideas on that.
I don't know, Neville. You know, right, initially trying to get started with, you know, some of these projects that are kind of more maintenance type of projects to show that things are getting done. Are you suggesting some type of further study? What exactly are you suggesting?
I'm just wondering if some funding may be needed for further study of some of these things.
Okay.
It might be, Neville, but that might be a bit off. It might be. That's correct. It's a lot to delve into, but I think at this stage with 130 grand, that's kind of on the table, if lack of a better word. I think Bill can kind of outline the parameters of kind of decision making for this. And as most things occur, everything is a very small step by step, slow process.
And the plan does call out some action items within the goals to perhaps look to hiring a consultant down the road that could do further evaluation of things such as looking at ways to improve the bicycle and pedestrian connectivity and pathways in and around the district. Just not quite sure that that's something that we'll be able to work on tackling and implementing kind of at this point.
I think Howard wanted to speak, but maybe, and now his picture disappeared. Maybe he was muted. He kept raising his hand. Howard? Oh, well.
But one of the long-term projects that we were looking at was the moving of the power poles on the Ricestown Road. And that will basically affect the sidewalks, which would affect the lampposts. So some of the ideas about the flowers and things, I think would be wonderful. That doesn't impede anything. But on the other hand, something like lampposts may have a conflict with other projects that you're also considering.
Yeah, I'm sure further down the road, Ricestown's faced that same issue with, you know, wanting to do some more intensive streetscape projects along with replacing lampposts, but it's kind of a chicken and the egg of which one is a priority, what can be done first, especially when you get SHA in the mix. It just further complicates the issue, and any type of real streetscape project, as far as construction project, is, as far as I can say, quite a ways off.
Can you hear?
Yes. Lou, yes.
Who was that?
I'm not sure.
It might have been Howard. I think he really wanted to say something.
Howard, are you there?
Howard is Sue Needle on this schematic.
Go ahead, Howard, you're unmuted.
Oh, well.
Okay, well.
There he is. He's back. Howard, did you want to say something?
Oh, shucks.
I think he's having technical difficulties.
Yeah, he's unmuted, but not sure what's going on.
Very good, Bill. That was wonderful program tonight.
Okay. So I'll look into some of those items to follow up with on some of these next step projects, getting some approximate dollar amounts, hopefully steer everyone's decision, and then we'll try to figure out a way to form up some consensus.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. It's working pretty good. I like it.
Other than that, that was the last item on the agenda. Just about on time. I'm okay with going a few minutes over. So,
Bill,
yes.
Technical difficulties here. Oh, shucks. Maybe you could contact him, Bill. See what his comment was later.
Yep.
Yeah, Howard, we were dying to hear what you had to say, but it's not going to happen, it looks like.
Okay. Well, I'll try to get in touch with Howard tomorrow and see what he had to say.
That'd be great. Thanks, Bill. Look forward to the follow-up. Well done.
Okay.
Well done.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Recording is
Night,
stopped.
everyone.
good night, guys. Thank you.
Aye.